All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. There is even more to discuss with the Warner Brothers Discovery sale, or the potential of a Warner Brothers Discovery sale, as we see now David Zaslav and company have in fact put out the big old for sale sign in the front yard after getting all of these offers from different companies. You guys know my general position on this. I think consolidation is a bad thing. No way of explaining that is more indicative of just where this main article comes from today, which is CNBC, which is of course owned by NBC Universal, which is of course one of the companies that's very interested in the purchase of Warner Brothers Discovery. It says from CNBC, Warner Brothers Discovery rejected 3 Paramount takeover offers, the last for just under $24 a share. Warner Brothers Discovery has rejected 3 Paramount Skydance takeover offers as it fields broad buyout interest, says David Faber, Wednesday, citing sources. Paramount's last offer was for just under $24 a share and was comprised of 80% cash, according to Faber, who previously reported a bid could come in at $22 to $24 a share. Reuters reported on Tuesday that Warner Brothers Discovery had rejected a bid for nearly $24 a share. Warner Brothers Discovery said on Tuesday that it had received unsolicited interest from multiple parties and that would expand its strategic review process to review all bids. At the same time, the company is moving ahead with their previously announced plans to separate the two brands. They want to separate Warner Brothers and Discovery into separate things. And you have to wonder where this is going to go. Now, it seems to be that David Ellison really is the front runner for all of this. The reasons they're citing more than anything that he's in charge over there at Paramount, after taking over, merging with Skydance, is his connections to the Trump administration and his family's money. Of course, Larry Ellison being the founder of Oracle, and now, the U.S. distributor of TikTok being what it is, and that offer, that most recent offer that came in from Larry Ellison was for $60 billion. And it really is, like, you have to think about it, whether it's whether it's Paramount Global, or whether it's Comcast, which is NBC, there are huge antitrust concerns that are going to be going on here, which is why I think that David Ellison having that relationship with the Trump administration will play such a big role in whether they're able to make sure that this happens. This was a big thing that happened when Disney bought Fox. Like, these concerns do exist, and I have concerns outside of the government. Like, if you really think about it, if Paramount was to own Warner Brothers Discovery, that would give them 2 of the 5 major Hollywood studios. It would give them 2 of the largest streaming services. Granted, Warner Brothers Discovery is bigger, I believe, than Paramount Plus, but it would give them 2 huge cable network portfolios and 2 major news networks, with CBS over at Paramount, and then you've got CNN over at Warner Brothers. Like, there are concerns that the message is going... Now, look, I think for most of us, we understand that the media, in a lot of ways, it's felt consolidated for a very, very long time. You don't get a whole lot of diversity of thought when it comes to the media anyways. But when it comes to Hollywood studios, look, what Warner Brothers is doing right now with their studio and James Gunn is perhaps very different than what Paramount is doing with, say, Taylor Sheridan over on Paramount Plus, with all of the great work he is doing with shows like Mayor of Kingstown, Tulsa King. Yellowstone was very, very popular. Granted, a lot of people think that it fell off in the later seasons. Special Ops Lioness, Lawman, Bass Reeves. There's a whole different set of voices over there at Paramount than there is at Warner Brothers, and the consolidation of those brands is bad for everyone. At least, at the very least, it is bad for the fans of these franchises who don't want to see them condensed down. I don't want to see what Lawman, Bass Reeves, or Mayor of Kingstown looks like under a studio owned by James Gunn. Now, I understand that that's a joke because he's in charge of DC Studios, but that's, Mike DeLuca over there at Warner Brothers. I want to see Taylor Sheridan given free reign to make what he wants, and I don't want less voices involved in giving the go-ahead for these productions. I want to see more voices included. I don't think that that really holds the same when it comes to the news side of things. I think the media has been trash. Look, all of these divisions have been trashed for a very long time. I have a lot of complaints with Hollywood. I have way more complaints even than that with traditional mainstream news outlets, but be that what it will. After a $60 billion approach, now this is from Reuters, after a $60 billion approach was rejected by Warner Brothers Discovery on Tuesday, Reuters first reported that the company was put up for sale and attracted potential buyers, including Comcast and Netflix and Apple. You know, what they're saying is basically Netflix and Apple wouldn't necessarily be interested in the traditional television elements of these companies, but somebody like NBC Universal would absolutely want to get their hands on the television networks as well. And I believe that Paramount as well would want to get a hold of all of it, and David Ellison would want to have control over all of those brands. But it says they are now getting a $74 billion valuation at $30 a share. The price Bank of America analyst Jessica Rafe Ehrlich estimates Warner Brothers Discovery stock could fetch in a sale. The company would be valued at around $74 billion. Again, that's $30 a share. A figure analysts said could deter some bidders, but remains within reach for Ellison, whose father, Larry Ellison, is, of course, the world's second richest man and is a net worth of about $330 billion. Apple had about $36.3 billion in cash at June end and could easily raise debt to fund a takeover, but it has historically avoided large deals. It remains its biggest remains to be that $3 billion purchase of Beats, like Beats headphones. Netflix holds $9.3 billion in cash on hand and has never done a deal exceeding $1 billion, while Comcast's $9.7 billion cash pile means any bid would likely rely heavily on debt or outside partners. So the big selling point here for Paramount is that they could do this purchase without the debt. They could take on all of the debt that Warner Brothers Discovery has and not incur debt of their own. Unlike Paramount, the other companies are also likely to be more interested in parts of Warner Brothers Discovery rather than the company as a whole, which would saddle its buyers with around $35 billion in debt and declining cable TV assets. Yeah, it's crazy to me these days as everything pushes to streaming that anybody would be interested in cable networks at all. But again, like I said, I'm not a CEO or a major business conglomerate owner, so maybe there's something there that I don't understand. But it says Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos on Tuesday reiterated that the streamer is not interested in buying traditional TV networks, but also did not mention the studio. So again, that's, he's kind of, thumbing the nose there at the audience or at the people who are reading these articles. They wouldn't be interested in purchasing something like CBS, but would they be interested in the Paramount catalog? I bet they would. Would they be interested in having that foster some type of deal with Taylor Sheridan or the creators over there with David Zaslav and James Gunn and the creators over there at Warner Brothers? Yeah, I do believe that they would be interested in that. They also mention here, of course, David Ellison enjoys a unique advantage over other rivals. His father's close ties with the U.S. President Donald Trump. Larry Ellison has long been a Republican mega donor and one of the few high-profile tech executives who were openly supportive of Trump before last November's election. So they get into these other articles here from Deadline, which is to talk about just, what would happen. From over here at Variety, what would happen if a merger like this was to go through? And I think the number one thing that most people understand would happen in cases like this is there would be mass layoffs because you're consolidating your business down. Like I said, consolidation isn't just bad for the audience who's going to have fewer voices creating entertainment for them. It's bad for the people on the creative side of things who are then going to see themselves out of a job as the companies merge into one and don't need as many personnel. They talk about it here. This is from Variety. It says, Warner Brothers Discovery merger would undoubtedly include a massive set of layoffs as a union of the two conglomerates would reduce corporate overhead and would consolidate functions across studios, TV, and streaming operations. Note that Ellison and his team are expected to begin mass layoffs at Paramount Skydance the week of October 27th, eliminating 2,000 jobs in the U.S. with additional cuts internationally. At the end of 2024, Warner Brothers Discovery had approximately 35,000 employees, including fully full and part-time workers. Paramount Global has 18,600 at the end of last year and has made additional layoffs since. That was a big part of David Zaslav's job when he took over at Warner Brothers, was to just pare down, get rid of the debt, and make the company leaner. It says Warner Brothers Discovery is in the midst of splitting its two companies into their own brands. Warner Brothers housing its streaming platform and businesses, and Discovery Global with most of Warner Brothers Discovery TV businesses, a deal projected to be completed by April of 2026. So what do you guys think? Do you guys believe that this is the type of thing where is David Ellison just going to go to Larry and say, look, I've got a great idea here. I've got a great purchase here. You've got the relationship with Donald Trump that makes it way more plausible that we're able to get through with the antitrust stuff. We're not going to face as much pushback if, say, Donald Trump wasn't in office and you had an administration that was less friendly to the idea of consolidation. It's a criticism that I would have, given the fact that, look, it's not just about the layoffs, and I'm not a huge fan of government, getting involved in private business, but there is something to be said that we already have a mainstream media apparatus that feels like it's one voice spread over 5 networks, and that's really what it feels like most of the time. Have you ever seen those videos, guys, where it's some news headline and they go from station to station to station on network television, and they're all kind of showing you they're all reading seemingly from the same exact script? It was something that was going on during COVID as you saw these mass messages go out to the general public. People don't like the idea of consolidation, and they don't like the idea of government meddling in private business. So you have to wonder, whose side would people fall on here? I tend to fall on the side that you don't want to consolidate these businesses. And for me, as a consumer rather than a creator on that side of things, selfishly, that is mainly because I want to see more voices with more avenues to create unique stories than I am on the side of the creatives who perfectly understandably do not want to see their jobs go by the wayside as these companies, consolidate down further and further. It's become a problem in recent years, and it's going to continue to do so as these companies, they just go around. They're like locusts, and they just consume all of these other brands. But look, when it comes to, say, something like Comcast facing those antitrust lawsuits, I do think that they would face kind of a greater claim with that. But that's the company that owns NBC Universal. They own, MSNBC, CNBC. That's where I was reading those articles from earlier. So do I really want to see what it is when MSNBC and CNBC pairs together with CNN, TNT, TBS, and all of these other traditional networks, and then news gets consolidated down further? You've got even less to choose from. There's even less to go on as far as unique voices. What it's going to do more than anything, if you ask me, is it's pushing people to other platforms. It's pushing people to, you saw all this stuff yesterday. We covered it. We talked about it last night on IRL, which is the Pentagon having a different press corps now, and they've sent this invite out to everyone. But a lot of those traditional outlets don't want to be involved with the press corps if, God forbid, people with a different perspective than them or companies that are not part of the ivory tower elite have a say in being able to ask questions of the Secretary of War. Right? It has always been a big club. You and I have always not been in that club, and consolidation down even further, all it's really doing more than anything is putting a more bold face to the idea of consolidation, when in a lot of ways all of these companies have been the same for a very long time anyways. I still would prefer to hedge my bets on that idea. I want to see more voices. I don't want to see Warner Brothers own I don't want to see Warner Brothers owned by a platform like Paramount Plus. I just don't. I want to see them have their own voices, have their own distinct products. I want to see them work for your business. Right now, I have Paramount Plus, but I do not have Warner Brothers Discovery. I want to see Warner Brothers put in work, put out great content. Look, Peacemaker didn't do it for me. None of the stuff they're putting out now is really doing it for me. But if they're consolidated down further, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get great television from both over there on Paramount Plus. What it means is that things that might have gotten approved to be made at Warner Brothers might not. Once they're released, once they're all under one banner and it's just Paramount Global, I don't want to see that. I want to see them work for your business, much like WWF and WCW back in the day. You are made better by having competition in the marketplace. A lot of people will tell you that the time when WWF really started going to shit was when they finally kind of gobbled up WCW, took it over, and they didn't have to worry about anything. They didn't have to worry about any competition knocking them off the mat and taking their place at the top of the pecking order. Now you could say, like, is it different now with something like AEW? WWE is such a huge company and it is so prolific and successful. It's not the same as what it was when they were in the Monday Night Wars and Vince McMahon was going toe-to-toe with the likes of Eric Bischoff for your business, for the business that I was looking to. Well, I mean, I was like 11 years old at that time, but you get the point. Competition makes these companies better. It forces them to put out things that are really going to bring interest in. Consolidation is a bad idea. That's my take on it, guys. What do you think about this most recent update? Do you think that it will go for something like $74 billion? David Zaslav's got to be on high right now as he sees that all this interest in his company is just pushing that stock valuation up higher and higher. And he is a businessman. If anything, what he wants to do is he wants to add value to his company and make his company money. Do you think that he would end up selling? But let me know down below, guys. I would like to know your thoughts on the matter. I have been posting about this pretty significantly lately. I know it's not the most interesting thing to a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff in pop culture that might be more tied into the properties and things like that. But I think that the business side is where it all starts. When it goes wrong, it doesn't necessarily just go wrong because the creatives are creatively bankrupt. It goes wrong because the people in charge don't know who to hire, or you simply don't have enough competition to to be incentivized to hire the proper people to make your media. But let me know down below, guys, what do you think is going to happen? And if you don't know what our podcast is, Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. We have a lot of fun over there. Hope to see you there. Later, guys. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.